Well, I think I'm very lucky to have survived both HACE and HAPE because I had both. And I was very, very lucky to have survived and be here to talk about it today. Exactly over a year ago, on 29th April 2014, I was evacuated down from this mountain. And so it could have turned out to be a nearly disastrous consequence for me. So mountaineering has always been my passion. I wanted to do something different. I was celebrating my 10 years here at UC Davis last year, and I wanted to do something memorable, although I did not want it to be the outcome like this. But I saw this flyer, and it said CME, UC Davis to trek to Everest. And I'm like, oh, yes, that's it. And that's what I always wanted to do. And it was best to do it with a team of UC Davis doctors and nurses, whom I'm very grateful to because of them I'm here today. So all the preparations, yes, that's how it feels like when you travel for 14 hours in a flight. And it was all about getting ready to go, the funding, procuring a visa is very easy. So if you want to go to Nepal, just drop at the airport and they'll give you a visa right away. Believe it or not, that's true. And the training, that was the hard part. I did train in Yosemite, a little bit in Tahoe, and I thought I did great. And so I said, okay, I'm ready. I think I can take this trip and go ahead. At the bottom is a picture of the best as you can get at 9,000 feet. It's only a 200-meter strip, and that's your runway. So good luck if you land safely. There are at least 2 or 3 fatal crashes every month on that, yeah. So you have to sit with your fingers crossed in the airplane and say, okay, Lord, help me here. At least I should get down safely. So there's only 10 people who can sit in that airplane, and then good luck if it stops on time. So that's how it feels like. Obviously, that is the first town, Lukla, which is at around 9,000 feet, where you land from the airplane. And you see these beautiful animals called yaks that carry all your luggage up the mountain. These go up to the base camp of Everest at 18,000 feet. They're very hardy animals, but please stay away from them because they're crazy. Because they always run on low oxygen. So after getting down and eating our breakfast and sipping hot tea, we said, okay, it's time to move on, which wasn't a very smart idea, as you might have heard from the lecture before, that you need to stay at that altitude or at least walk down and sleep lower and then climb higher. But time and money was a constraint. So unfortunately, as soon as we were dropped down, in a couple of hours, we were all walking up the mountain. So I think the problems kind of started right there. But since I was in a group, I had no choice to turn back. And so we went from Lukla, this beautiful town, up to this place called Ramjung. And this is the first village where you get the glimpse of Everest and the other large peaks around it. Mount Amadablam is one of the best ones around, or Lhotse. And I had some foot pain, and everybody thought that I had probably ankle sprain, so my ankle was taped, and there was some powerful medication by this Dr. Nanji, who was incidentally from Canada. And he says, no, you need to get more powerful medications than this. Your foot is really swollen. I don't think you can walk unless your pain is controlled. So we got that. We said, okay, pain, you know what? It's not a part of acute mountain sickness, so we'll continue. At that point of time, I was fine. My oxygen saturation was 93%, which was as good as anybody else on the team. And so they said, okay, this doesn't look like a mountain sickness kind of thing. If she can bear the pain, she can move on. So the next day, we go to this beautiful town called Namche Bazaar. I'm not sure if people have heard about this, but this was a home to Sir Edmund Hillary for many, many years after he scaled Everest. And he has done a lot for this village. It's really called the Bazaar because this is the highest mountain market that you can ever get. People come from all villages around it just to buy vegetables over there. And this was at 12,000 feet. So from 9,000 feet at Ramjung, 9,200 feet at Ramjung, we scaled 3,000 feet that day. It was treacherous. It was 12 bridges, those aluminum bridges where the yaks and the people and everybody's trying to get across it. So we had to cross those 12 times on this beautiful river called Dudh Kosi River. And it was a 10-hour walk to Namche Bazaar. It was hard. It was absolutely brutal vertical climb constantly for at least 8 hours before we got to a little flatter plain. So that's how Namche Bazaar looks. It's very crowded. There's a lot of people there. We were housed in a beautiful hotel. We had some mild nausea, diarrhea, and headaches running around in quite a few members in our team. And so we all went to acclimatize. We all went up further after putting our bags down and then came back and slept at Namche Bazaar. It did feel better after that, but it didn't completely go away. But none of us was deemed necessary to be going down back as part of rescue or anything. Next day, we walked to Khumjung. This is a beautiful, beautiful valley town, very small. And this is where you kind of start getting low on vegetation and high on rocks and, mount all kinds of snow and everything else. Although there was no snow at the time when we went. And so this trek was not as hard. It was only 3 to 4 hours. But the highlight of this trek was we met David Brashears, who's one of the very distinguished mountaineers. He lives in Boston, but most of the time he's in and around the Khumbu Himalayas. And he was the pioneering person who was actually negotiating talks between the Sherpas and the Nepalese government. And the reason he was there was because there was an avalanche just 9 days before we started on our journey, which took down 18 Sherpas, as you might have read the stories. So we were going there at a very critical time point. And so here everything was fine, just the same mild headache, nothing worse than the day before. And so we decided to move on. The next day, we were actually gaining altitude here. We were more than 12,000 feet here in this beautiful town called Tiang Boche. It's a very, very small village because it's at 12,000 feet. Not many people would want to live there continuously, so people come and go even though they have homes. It also houses this monastery it has been burnt down like thrice in the past and has been rebuilt and reconstructed, and it looks like this now. And kind of gives you the glimpse as to what is to come in the next 3 to 4 days on your trek to Everest Base Camp in the picture on the right. It's all valleys and rocks and just rubble and gaining altitude after that. Here I felt the elevation. I was a little more sicker, had more nausea. I wasn't able to eat much, although I kept drinking warm tea and liquids. And the team assessed me and they said, hey, you know what, you can breathe fine and you just have some mild nausea. My foot pain wasn't any worse than it was on day 1 or day 2. So they decided to keep me moving and not send me back. But here's what happened next. Ding Boche, this is at 14,000, a little above 14,000 feet. And coming into Ding Boche, I think my resources were exhausted and I was kind of dying at this point. And I somehow reached the destination and I lay in bed. People came to look. I was doing okay for the first hour, but after that, severe problems started. When I started collapsing, I couldn't breathe at all. I wasn't even, I believe, conscious enough at that point. And from this point on, the story is all about recollection of what I remember and then what people told me later on at the hotel. So yes, I was really, really crashing. And so I was given oxygen, I was given IV fluids, and a helicopter rescue was arranged. The window for the helicopter rescue was only 15 minutes. That's it. It was bad, severe weather. It was snowing hard. The helicopter rescue was a challenge, but they still managed to arrange it. But they said, I have to get there in 15 minutes to the helipad, which was a quarter of a mile away, and it landed in one of those fields on your right-hand picture. And that's it. The helicopter is not going to wait for more than 15 minutes. So if I can make it there, I'm hope to live. Otherwise, I'm done. And there were 3 people who had died on that same altitude that same day because they could not get the helicopter in time to rescue them. So my team was scared. They said, we don't want her to die on us, because that's a bad name for the company that was organizing all this. So they were like, honey, get up. And the worst part is there are no stretchers. There are no qualified professionals, other than, good thing I was traveling with a team of professionals, but there are no qualified personnel there to put you on a stretcher, give you oxygen, in the fancy way that was just described in the earlier lecture, and then get you off the mountain. So I had to walk. Yes, I was dragged, because I didn't even know what I was doing. I was dragged by 5 Sherpas, a couple of them holding the oxygen cylinder and the mask over my face. And I was literally dragged to the helicopter. There were only 2 minutes left for it to take off. I was just pulled up and dumped. My stuff was dumped in it, and we were on our way down, because any longer the helicopter would not have made it with me in it. So the descent was back to Lukla. The helicopter looks something like the red one over there near the building. That's the airport building. So I was taken down there. I started vomiting after I actually reached 9,000 feet. Till then, I wasn't vomiting at all. But here, I started vomiting. There was no help. I was all by myself because the pilot left after he dropped me off. Yes. Yes, exactly. That was, his job wasn't to take care of me. His job was to take me down and dump me over there. Fortunately, there were a couple of people who had been evacuated earlier who apparently had felt better after they came. And they came to my rescue and they said, oh, what's going on here? I said, I don't know, but I can't walk even like 2 steps because I'm tired. And so they dragged me to this building because it was snowing at the time. It was bad weather. So they took me to the building and they lay me over there where I had to wait for 2 hours more. He took the oxygen cylinder away. So I was without oxygen at 9,000 feet, almost dying, waiting in this building over there for the next helicopter to come from Kathmandu to lift me back and take me back. So after that, this one guy volunteered to come with me who was helping me out at the base, and I was taken to Kathmandu airport where there was an ambulance, fortunately, waiting for me to take me to the CIWEC hospital. So this hospital is only dedicated to take care of people with acute mountain sickness. There's no regular patient care or anything else. This is only for AMS folks. So I was taken there. It's funny, they did not do any head CT or anything. Other than a chest x-ray, there was no facility for any other imaging to be done. So they clinically diagnosed me with HAPE and HACE, and then I was dumped in an ICU. 3 days, I did not have any idea where I was. I was in this foreign country. I had no family, no friends, no known people around me, and I was in this ICU being treated by these doctors over there. And day 4, I think in the afternoon, I woke up and I realized that, okay, I'm in a hospital right now. So what am I doing here? And then the thoughts started coming to me that, oh my God, this is what happened to me actually. And I was on oxygen, of course, and as soon as they tried to take me off the oxygen, my saturation dropped in the 80s. And so they were worried about me having a PE at that point of time. But to transport me to another facility to get a CT angio was a big challenge for them because none of them wanted to let me go that far. They were not sure if I would even make it. So I was in metabolic acidosis. I had all the metabolic derangements that you can think of in a book. And I was on IV fluids, it was terrible to be all alone there without anybody that you know that was around you. And so they decided to keep waiting. So day 6, they said, okay, if she does not respond to this oxygen challenge today at 21%, then that's it. We're sending her to get a CT angio. And I was lucky that I was able to, during the day, I was challenged to stay off oxygen for a couple of hours on oxygen, and I made it. So I made it to 96%, and everybody was happy. They said, okay, she'll live. and so that was the key in my recovery. And after that, I had to be internationally fit to travel. So that was another scary part, that, will I be given a fitness certificate? Because unless the hospital gives me a fitness certificate, I cannot sit in that airplane and come back. And that was my next worry when I started realizing, can I go back home or not? And fortunately, day 7, I was released from the hospital eventually, and they told me to come back a week later after my team arrived to get some help. And after that, I was doing okay at the hotel back there. And I came back after 6 days. I was medically cleared to fly. But the most important thing from this whole trip was that poor planning on the team's part, poor acclimatization. I think the earlier on, if I would have been evacuated 3 days before I actually, landed in trouble, would have saved all the helicopter ride and all the other problems that I had. I also had a lot of foot pain at the time when I was in the hospital trying to recover from my hip and haze, that they did not do any x-rays on my foot to find out if there was any broken bones or anything like that. I came back to US safe and sound. Fortunately, I had no problems in the airplane because they put me on high risk for pulmonary embolism during my flight, because it's a long, long flight. And so I was allowed to rest in the airplane whenever I wanted. They gave me ice bags to, around my ankles and my feet to keep me sane, and lots of fluids. And there were a couple of doctors that were constantly assessing me every couple hours in the airplane itself, because we were a team of 7 people who came back in the same flight. So that was a good thing for me. After I came back, my troubles had not ended at all. I came home, I was weak, I was trying to recover from all this massive, I had vomited blood for at least 3 days, and my GI system was totally wrecked completely. So it was as if I was renewing my entire GI lining when I came back. So I had a slow recovery. I could not walk for about 5 months, and that is when we came back. I went to my regular doctor, and they did an X-ray, and apparently this doesn't usually happen in an acute mountain sickness episode. But I had a microfracture of my navicular bone. And due to and because I had a microfracture and had suffered so much hypoxia at this altitude, that it had caused avascular necrosis of my navicular bone. And I had no idea that it wasn't an ankle sprain, as everybody had diagnosed me on the trip. This was truly grave, much more so than I had thought. And so I had to get treated for that. But for the 5 months that I wasn't able to walk, I went through CT scans and MRIs and getting the best doctor, the foot doctor, and they eventually said that, hey, you know what, you're going to have complete arthrodesis of your midfoot, because this bone is not salvageable. It's dead, it's gone. There was so much destruction around my foot. So I waited till my surgery, and actually today I'm celebrating exactly 1 year. 26 September. Thank you guys. 26 September 2014, I got my surgery on my foot. And for 3 months after that, of course, I wasn't able to weight bear walk, but today I can say that I'm really happy with the results. I can not only walk, I can run, I can bear weight without pain. I don't have to take any pain medications anymore. And I'm very, very, very lucky to have survived this whole ordeal. The recollection of these, and it was, the doctors in Nepal are really good. They don't have very many resources there. Like, the best I got was a chest x-ray. That's it. There's no fancy imaging, no CT, no ICP monitoring, not even a central line. I only had a peripheral line, that's it. And that's how I was managed, and they seemed to do fine. And, here I am talking to everybody and able to. And the first thought that came to me, and this is not funny, the first thought that came to me on day 4 in the afternoon when I woke up that, oh my God, I'm in a hospital, what am I doing here? And then I remembered what had happened, and the memory came back, and I said, oh, am I neurologically intact? That was my biggest fear, not surviving the mountain, not having a leg chopped off. I said, am I neurologically intact to function when I get back home? And that was the key. So obviously, whatever those guys did to manage and provide me the care, they must have done a great job that I'm here and I'm able to function again. Although sometimes, I must say, I have memory losses. Like, I forget names. But I do remember faces. So I guess you can't qualify that as neurologically intact. But this is the best I can get. But it was a very scary story. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.